The Frog and Toad stories were written and illustrated by Arnold Lobel in the 1970s. When he was a child, Mr. Lobel loved reading and drawing. After graduating from art school, he became a children's book illustrator. Eventually, he began to write and illustrate his own books. You'll notice most of Mr. Lobel's books feature animal characters drawn with thick black lines and shaded with only a few colors. Today I'd like to share two of my favorite Frog and Toad stories, along with two crafts that go with those stories. Thank you for joining me to celebrate 50 years since the publication of the first Frog and Toad book. Let's go have some fun. The Kite, a story from Days with Frog and Toad. Frog and Toad went out to fly a kite. They went to a large meadow where the wind was strong. "Our kite will fly up and up," said Frog. "It will fly all the way up to the top of the sky." "Toad," said Frog, "I will hold the ball of string, you hold the kite, and run." Toad ran across the meadow. He ran as fast as his short legs could carry him. The kite went up in the air. It fell to the ground with a bump. Toad heard laughter. 3 robins were sitting in a bush. "That kite will not fly," said the robins. "You may as well give up." Toad ran back to Frog. "Frog," said Toad, "this kite will not fly. I give up." "We must make a second try," said Frog. "Wave the kite over your head. Perhaps that will make it fly." Toad ran back across the meadow. He waved the kite over his head. The kite went up in the air and then fell down with a thud. "What a joke," said the robins. "That kite will never get off the ground." Toad ran back to Frog. "This kite is a joke," he said. "It will never get off the ground." "We have to make a third try," said Frog. "Wave the kite over your head and jump up and down. Perhaps that will make it fly." Toad ran across the meadow again. He waved the kite over his head. He jumped up and down. The kite went up in the air and crashed down into the grass. "That kite is junk," said the robins. "Throw it away and go home." Toad ran back to Frog. "This kite is junk," he said. "I think we should throw it away and go home." "Toad," said Frog, "we need one more try. Wave the kite over your head. Jump up and down and shout, 'Up, kite, up!'" Toad ran across the meadow. He waved the kite over his head. He jumped up and down. He shouted, "Up, kite, up!" The kite flew into the air. It climbed higher and higher. "We did it!" cried Toad. "Yes," said Frog. "If a running try did not work, and a running and wavy try did not work, and a running, waving, and jumping try did not work, I knew that a running, waving, jumping, and shouting try just had to work." The robins flew out of the bush, but they could not fly as high as the kite. Frog and Toad sat and watched their kite. It seemed to be flying way up at the top of the sky. I really like how Frog and Toad work together to get their kite to fly. Today, you and I will make our own kites, and we can watch them soar up above the sky. Let's get started. Your craft kit includes most of the materials you need to complete this project. A kite template, 3 pieces of ribbon, 4 pieces of black cardstock, a handful of tissue paper squares, and a little pot of Mod Podge. You will need to provide a pair of scissors, a paintbrush, and some glue. Before you begin, you may want to cover your workspace with a piece of wax paper or a piece of aluminum foil or maybe a few paper towels. Place your kite template on the wax paper. Have your Mod Podge ready to go. And begin by making a light coat of Mod Podge on your kite template. I'm going to start down here at the bottom. I'm going to paint just a little bit at a time and then add some Mod Podge to the tissue paper squares that I place over the kite template. Don't worry if the tissue covers up the lines that are the outline of your kite, that's okay. Eventually we are going to be cutting along those lines, so anything extra will fall away. The important thing to think about when you're working on this part of your project is keeping your tissue paper smooth and using just a little bit of Mod Podge at a time so it doesn't crinkle up your tissue paper and so your project won't end up lumpy. You can make a pattern with your tissue paper if you would like, or you can just place them on there randomly like I am. Okay, that part is finished, so now I'm going to move up to the next section. Cover the kite template with a thin layer of Mod Podge and continue to add your tissue paper. Give each square of tissue paper a thin coat of the Mod Podge to make it nice and shiny. How about a piece of red? And maybe when the red and the blue go together and the sunlight shines through them, it will create a new color. You might remember from your art class what kind of color you'll get if you mix blue and red. I'll let you find out. Here I'm over at the edge of the kite template. Don't worry if the tissue paper hangs over the edge. That's okay. Let's see, I'm trying to add some orange. There we go. And green. How about blue? If you would like to have smaller shapes on your kite, feel free to cut the squares into smaller pieces, or even cut them into different shapes. Maybe you could try circles or triangles or a little bit of everything. That would be kind of cool. Okay. I'm going to add some Mod Podge to this section and add some more tissue, covering up all of the kite shape with the tissue shapes. As you can see, it's a little messy, which is why we cover our workspace. It's a very small rectangle. And a big square. Looks like I'm running out of Mod Podge. I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm going to cover the top of each square with a thin layer of Mod Podge 2, so the kite stays nice and shiny when it dries. Okay, that looks pretty good. I have a little bit of kite template sticking out here on the side, so I'm going to cover it with a skinny rectangle. There's a spot there that's showing also, so I'll get another skinny rectangle and paint them so they stick. There's a blank space here, so let's see, how about some orange? And one last little spot. I think I will fill that up with red. There we go. And use the paintbrush to spread out the Mod Podge so it's not lumpy, and so your tissue paper stays nice and smooth too. Okay, when your kite shape is finished, set it aside for about 20 or 30 minutes to let the Mod Podge dry, and then we will add the black construction paper and the ribbon. So I'll see you in a little bit. When your kite shape is dry, it's time to finish. Use your scissors to cut along the black line on your kite template, just like this. And what will be left is a kite shape that should be filled with colorful shapes. Okay, you can set the scraps aside. These strips of construction paper in your kit are meant to provide an outline for your kite. Like this. You can lay them on there however you would like. And when you have them where you would like them to be, use your glue to glue them in place. Like this. Oops. To remember to open the glue. Just a thin line of glue is really all that you need. And lay it along the edge of your kite shape. We'll do the same thing with the other three pieces. And put the black paper right along the edge. And we'll add the last one to finish the diamond shape. Okay, there we go. Press all of the sides down. And now we're ready to add the tail. Your kite kit includes 3 pieces of ribbon that we can add to the bottom of the diamond to make a kite tail. So add some glue to the bottom of the diamond and then press the ribbon into the glue in any order that you would like. It's a little messy, you might get some glue on your fingers, but that's okay. There we go. There are your 3 strings of your kite tail, and there is the rest of your kite. I'm going to let my kite rest for 20 or 30 minutes for the glue to dry, and then I will hang it in a window to enjoy the beautiful colors. The Letter, a story from Frog and Toad are friends. Toad was sitting on his front porch. Frog came along and said, "What is the matter, Toad? You are looking sad." "Yes," said Toad, "this is my sad time of day. It is the time when I wait for the mail to come. It always makes me very unhappy." "Why is that?" asked Frog. "Because I never get any mail," said Toad. "Not ever?" asked Frog. "No, never," said Toad. "No one has ever sent me a letter. Every day my mailbox is empty. That is why waiting for the mail is a sad time for me." Frog and Toad sat on the porch, feeling sad together. Then Frog said, "I have to go home now, Toad. There is something that I must do." Frog hurried home. He found a pencil and a piece of paper. He wrote on the paper. He put the paper in an envelope. On the envelope he wrote, "A letter for Toad." Frog ran out of his house. He saw a snail that he knew. "Snail," said Frog, "please take this letter to Toad's house and put it in the mailbox." "Sure," said the snail, "right away." Then Frog ran back to Toad's house. Toad was in bed taking a nap. "Toad," said Frog, "I think you should get up and wait for the mail some more." "No," said Toad, "I am tired of waiting for the mail." Frog looked out of the window at Toad's mailbox. The snail was not there yet. "Toad," said Frog, "you never know when someone may send you a letter." "No, no," said Toad, "I do not think anyone will ever send me a letter." Frog looked out of the window. The snail was not there yet. "But Toad," said Frog, "someone may send you a letter today." "Don't be silly," said Toad. "No one has ever sent me a letter before, and no one will send me a letter today." Frog looked out of the window. The snail was still not there. Frog, why do you keep looking out of the window? Asked Toad. Because now I am waiting for the mail, said Frog. But there will not be any, said Toad. Oh, yes, there will, said Frog, because I have sent you a letter. You have, said Toad. What did you write in the letter? Frog said, I wrote, Dear Toad, I am glad that you are my best friend, your best friend, Frog. Oh, said Toad, that makes a very good letter. Then Frog and Toad went out onto the front porch to wait for the mail. They sat there, feeling happy together. Frog and Toad waited a long time. 4 days later, the snail got to Toad's house and gave him the letter from Frog. Toad was very pleased to have it. Just like Toad, I love to receive special letters in my mailbox. But do you know what's even more fun than getting mail? It's making mail. Today we are going to learn how to make our very own colorful special envelopes. We're going to learn how to write a letter on our Frog and Toad stationery. And we'll learn how to address and put a stamp on the envelope. For this activity, you will need a couple of things from your kit. You will need a big piece of colorful paper that has an envelope shape on the back. You will need 2 blank labels, a big one and a small one. You will need your Frog and Toad stationery sheets, and you will also need a stamp. Let's get started. Before we write our letters, we are going to make an envelope using the large piece of colored paper. You will also need a ruler, a pencil, a glue stick, and a pair of scissors. Let's start with the pencil and the ruler. You will notice that the envelope shape has several notches around the outside. The notches look like little mountains with little mountain peaks. We are going to use the ruler to connect each mountain peak together. These will be the guides that we will use to help us fold our envelope after we cut it out of the large piece of paper. So, use your ruler to line up one little mountaintop with the other mountaintop, and use your pencil to draw a straight line across, connecting the two. And we'll do that 4 times, so we will have 4 lines that create a rectangle. There's 2. Line up the 2 and use your pencil to draw a straight line along the side of the ruler. That's the 3rd line, and here's the 4th, connecting this little mountaintop to this little mountaintop over here, like this. And now you'll notice that your envelope shape has a big rectangle right in the middle. Now you're going to take your scissors and you are going to cut along the line that's on the outside of your shape. And you're going to leave this rectangle right where it is. You're just going to cut all along the outside. So cut very carefully along the lines. Cut into the notches also. And you'll see that it kind of looks a little bit like a bunch of diamond shapes, all connected to a rectangle. Okay, this is the last edge. So now you have a big, kind of funny looking shape. Okay, we're ready to fold. You can set your paper scraps aside for recycling. And we are going to fold along the lines that we just drew using the ruler. To help you fold, you can use the ruler again. Lay the ruler up against your straight line, like this. Grab your piece of paper, and we're going to fold so we can see the colorful side. Move the ruler and then press the fold down to make a nice smooth crease. Do that on all four sides. Fold, move the ruler, and then use your fingers to make a nice smooth crease. Put the ruler up against the pencil line. Fold the paper over the pencil line. Move the ruler and then make a crease. And we'll do that on the last side. Okay, there we go. So now each side has a crease. So you're going to now fold two sides of your envelope in. These are the sides of your envelope, and you'll fold the bottom up to make the bottom of your envelope. The two smaller sides of your rectangle come in, and the bottom comes up to make the sides and the bottom of your rectangle. Now, to get this to stick together, you're going to use a glue stick and add some glue to the bottom of the sides, just like this. Be very careful not to get glue on the inside of your envelope, which is this white part here. If you do, you can just rub it away with your finger. Try to keep the glue on the colored pieces of the paper. Fold up the bottom and press it down. There you go. If you like, you can cut this little triangle off here just to make your envelope look a little bit neater. Just like that. Okay, so here is your envelope. We're going to leave the top open for now because we're going to write a letter to a family member or a special friend. Then we'll put the letter in and we'll seal it up with some glue. Okay, let's write our letter. Of course, you can use any paper you would like to write your letter, but if you choose, you can write your letter on the frog and toad stationery that is in your craft kit. I'm going to write a letter to my brother. I think he'll be really surprised to get some mail in his mailbox from me. So I'm going to start by writing, Dear Tyler, how are you? I hope all is well out in California. We are very busy here in New York. Joey and Jenny are back in school. And I am working on programs at the library. I'm looking forward to seeing you and your family soon. Love, Miss Lisa. I can also add the date at the top of the letter. When your letter is finished, you can fold it and put it in your envelope. I'm going to fold it in half this way and fold it in half this way. Put it inside and then use some glue to seal the envelope. Trying not to get glue on the inside. There we go. Nice and secure. Now it's time to address your envelope, and to do that, you will use your blank labels. We'll start with the small one. The small one goes up in the top left corner of your envelope. The larger one kind of goes in the middle and over to the right a little bit. In the small label, this is where you put your name and your address. This tells the person who receives the letter where the letter came from. So I'm going to write my name, Miss Lisa, and my address. 145 Pigeon Hill Road. And your grown-up can help you write your address, your name, your street address, your city, your state, and the zip code. Now in the large envelope, I'm going to write the name and address of the person who's going to receive this letter. And that is my brother, Mr. Tyler C. His address is 316 North Mount Shasta Boulevard. In the city of Mount Shasta, in the state of California, and here is the zip code. Okay, so this letter shows who it is from, who it is going to, and lastly, your letter needs a stamp. The post office won't deliver your letter without a stamp, so your kit includes one. So you can send your letter right away without having to go to the post office. And the stamp goes up in the top right corner. Now your letter is ready to mail. Frog and Toad have been friends for 50 years. They've shared a lot of adventures and they've made a lot of special memories together. If you have a special friend that you would like to acknowledge, you can create a pair of friendship bracelets that both of you can wear to remind each other of how important you are to each other. The friendship bracelets are made from pipe cleaners and pony beads. They're very easy to make. Simply slide the pony beads onto the pipe cleaners. You can make a pattern, or you can put them on there randomly. You can make them match, or you can make each one different. It's entirely up to you. But when you have as many beads on the pipe cleaner as you would like, wrap it around your wrist. You may need a grown-up to help you with this part, and give it a twist. This will keep it on your wrist, and it will also keep the beads on your bracelet. A grown-up can use a big pair of scissors or a wire cutter to trim the ends of the pipe cleaner. Make 2, give 1 to your special friend, and enjoy creating memories together. Maybe you'll have a friend or 2 or 3 or 4 that you'll have for 50 years too.